The Irish playwright Oscar Wilde once said, "I regard the theater as the greatest of all art forms, the most immediate way in which a human being can share with another the sense of what it is to be a human being." As a theater major, I have dedicated years of my life to the studies of theater, where it came from and why it is important. I have taken many classes by many different teachers and professors, and that has given me a wide outlook on the art form. So today we're going to talk about where theater started and how it has evolved over the years. Theater started as a way to communicate between people and to tell a story. In Africa, theater started as dance rituals. Now, there were no words to explain what was going on or to get a clear image of the story, but there were characters being portrayed by actors who were wearing ornate costumes. Now, with the lack of words, it was hard to tell a clear story, but there were still large audiences who loved these performances that were being put on. Theater in Egypt brought the first record of a traditional play. This is where we see the first appearance of a recurring theme of birth, death, and rebirth in theater. In Greece, in the 5th century, theater was a message from the government. The government hosted a competition called the City of Dionysia, where plays were written and judged, and this competition had mandatory participation. Everybody was required to come and watch the performances of these plays, and it was a festival that many people enjoyed, and they got to eat food and drink alcohol and just have a great time watching these plays being performed. And this was a way for the government to control the masses. The City of Dionysia gave life to the Aristotelian dramatic form, which is the dramatic form used on many plays and movies today, which was created by Aristotle. I have provided an example of a diagram of the standard 5-act outline for the Aristotelian dramatic form, and we see this standard form that is taught to many students in their secondary school years, where we have the prologue to conflict to climax, the falling action down to the resolution. And this was created during the City of Dionysia. Now, not only did we get the Aristotelian dramatic form, but we also got the rules of common Greek tragedy and comedy. A Greek tragedy followed a noble protagonist who was rich through the struggles that he would never beat with the insurmountable odds that were thrown against him, and the story would always end badly. And this was a way for the government to show the people that it was bad to be rich, that you're not missing out on anything, because if you're rich, your story's going to end badly and you're probably going to die a terrible death. On the other hand, a Greek comedy followed a protagonist who was a common man, so he was poor or he was middle class, and he was suffering due to his own life choices that he made that were bad choices, and then in the end of it, he ended up being a better person. And this was the government's way of showing the people that it was good to be poor, that if you were poor, sure, you'd struggle a little bit, but in the end, you'd have a happy ending. A common example of Greek theater that most people have probably heard of is the story of Oedipus by Sophocles. The story of Oedipus follows a man who is told by the oracle that he's going to kill his father and end up marrying his mother. So, in a means to prevent this, he leaves the kingdom that he grew up in, leaving both of who he assumes to be his parents, and he takes a journey. Upon this journey, he discovers a man who he ends up killing, and then becomes the king of Thebes by marrying the queen after her husband's death. In order to protect his citizens of Thebes, he tries to discover who killed the past king. And the oracle warns him not to do this. He's going to find out some bad things about himself, but he persists, and he discovers that it was him who killed the past king, and that king had been his father, which made the queen his mother, and he ended up doing exactly what the oracle had said he would. The queen ends up killing herself, and he ends up stabbing his eyes out. The theme behind this story was that your fate is predetermined, and you can't do anything to change this, no matter how hard you try. After the fall of Rome, theater took kind of a turn to where there weren't many performances, until the 10th century when passion and morality plays came to light. Passion and morality plays focused on religion, but they did so in differing manners. So morality plays were kind of like a religious haunted house, and the audience would walk from trailer to trailer in order to see the scenes set in front of them, and it showed them basically the bad things that would happen if you did not go to church, and it was an attempt to persuade people that the only thing to keep goodness in your life was the church. On the other hand of that, passion plays were a positive way to show the birth, death, and rebirth, which is that reoccurring theme that we're talking about, and they told the story of Jesus and his trial and crucifixion and resurrection. And these are like our general Easter plays that we see with his birth, and then we go to see his trial and his resurrection 3 days later. And these are told in a beautiful and glorified manner, and done so by the people. Now, through these developments of the theater, modern theater and acting were born. Theater has evolved greatly since the dance rituals of Africa, and we see that today. Now, Broadway theaters are arguably the most popular place to watch live theater in the United States, and according to the Broadway League, which is the official website of the Broadway theater industry, in the 2018 to 2019 season, 14,768,254 people viewed a Broadway show at one of the Broadway theaters. These shows yielded $1.8 billion in grosses, and that made this past season the highest viewed and highest grossing season in all of Broadway history, which just goes to show us that theater is still a commonly enjoyed thing in this world, and may even be making more of a comeback than it already has. According to Playbill.com, in order to be classified as a Broadway theater, the theater must seat at least 500 people and be located in Manhattan, New York. Now, that means that the theater doesn't necessarily have to be on Broadway Street, but just in Manhattan, which allows for 41 theaters to meet those requirements. So we see the difference in stage acting and film acting, but it's only a little different in how intense and deep the acting goes. Obviously, if you are filming the actor, you can get more up close, which allows you to easier tell their emotions, whereas if you're sitting in the very back of a theater watching an actor on a stage and their emotions aren't over the top or over dramatized, then you're maybe not going to know what they're feeling. So despite those differences, we see a lot of techniques used by film and television actors today that have been used forever, and we even see the reoccurring theme of birth, death, and rebirth in some of our many modernly loved movies. So an example of that in a modern situation could be Captain America. We see Steve Rogers was born, and he became a weak human being who was not even able to be drafted as a soldier, and then he became injected with the super soldier serum, and the himself that he was before the serum dies a non-literal death, and he is reborn as the ideal soldier that we know as Captain America. Konstantin Stanislavski was a Russian theater practitioner whose character acting technique is taught widely today to acting students. And he said, "The theater infects the audience with its noble ecstasy." And I believe that to be a very valid quote in proving how theater can affect and change people just by watching it. We notice today that when watching a play or a TV show or a movie, we are often able to feel the emotions that those characters are portraying, which is showing that we can be affected by the things that we watch. In closing, theater started as a way of communication and has since evolved to still be one of the big parts of society. So the next time that you're trying to plan a date night or decide what to do for the weekend, think about going to see a show at the theater. Thank you.